What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from the Token Minorities, and I'm finally back with a video for you guys today. Today I'm going to be starting a mini-series here on this channel where I'll be walking you through my recent run in the BFA Round 5 tournament. It's a really good tournament put on by Johnny GB. Make sure to go check him out. I'll make sure to link him down in the description below. He had a lot of help with the tournament as well, but I believe he is the head man behind the show. And it was definitely a fun experience, and you know, there's a funny story that goes along with this because I didn't actually sign up for this. I didn't actually sign up for this tournament, and I just randomly got this invitation in my inbox to the server, and apparently someone decided to just sign me up without permission. So to whoever you are, thanks, I guess, because this was actually a pretty fun tournament to play in. So I'm going to talk you through my draft a little bit, and in this video I'm going to just go through my pool play games, and you know, if we happen to advance out of pool play, then in upcoming videos I will show you some of my bracket games here. How this basically worked is, I believe there was some number upwards of 100 people in this tournament. If my math is correct, I think there's probably around, let me think, there were 64 people in the bracket, which means that if 2 people advance from every pool, that would be a lot. Okay, I'm not going to try to do the math off the top of my head. There were a lot of people in this tournament, and my pool had 5 people in it. The people in my pool were Big Daddy Dave, Goat, Overdosed Octillery, and Spoink. Those were all people I had never played before, so that was certainly an exciting experience for sure. But yeah, if we advance out of pool play, we'll go to a single elimination bracket round, and you know, it's one and done from there. So let's talk about the team a little bit, my draft for this tournament. So the concept of this draft, what I really wanted to do, I don't exactly remember where I was in the draft order, but what I ended up doing is drafting around Zygarde 50, as I had never been able to draft Zygarde 50 before, and because of obviously having access to 1,000 arrows, it's something that's really good in the format right now. And I wanted to draft around specifically a Z-move Zygarde 50, as I think that is by far the best Zygarde that's in the format, having the Z Crystal capabilities. So I wanted to draft around that, and I felt like the best way to probably do that is to support it with Hazard Stack as well as potentially Sticky Web, as I think Zygarde, it's only base 95 speed, I believe, which isn't terrible, but it's not particularly fast, especially if I wanted to run something like a Choice Banded set. It could really benefit from Sticky Web, and with only base 100 attack, it really benefits from having extra hazards on the field as well. So that's kind of what I wanted to draft around here for this tournament. I opted to go with a team of Zygarde 50, Mega Diancie, I had Infernape, I had Crobat, I had Ferrothorn for the Hazard Stack option, and Mesprit, Araquanid for the Sticky Webs, and Ursaring as my last mon. So a lot of mons here on this team that I've never actually used before. The Zygarde never used before, Mesprit I've never had, Mega Diancie I've never had, something I've heard a lot of good things about and really wanted to try it myself. Plus, you know, if this is going to be a pseudo Sticky Web team, then obviously Mega Diancie fits really well with that as well. Infernape's also another mon I've only had, I believe, in a tournament a long time ago in the past. So being able to try it again here for the first time in this generation was pretty cool too. And Araquanid, a mon I had been really negative about, I think, for a long time, thinking it really wasn't able to do much because it had poor coverage. But then I realized that Water Bubble means it really doesn't need coverage. Not very effective hits, in quotes, are actually pretty effective because Araquanid is relatively strong, but with the Water Bubble ability, those liquidations hit pretty darn hard. And it's able to really trap and deal with a lot of its quote-unquote counters as well. So I think Araquanid's pretty good. Ended up serving me pretty well throughout this tournament. So yeah, well, I'll show you how that all went down here in just a second. But yeah, the idea is to Hazard Stack with Rocks, Spikes, and Sticky Web, and then try to win this game with my variety of threats that can really abuse those hazards. The Zygarde loves them, the Diancie loves them, Infernape likes them a lot as well, as Infernape's natural stats aren't that high either. It just has good versatility. And even Crobat, I think, really benefits a lot from all those hazards. Now, one thing you might notice with my team is that I have a lot of momentum as well, and I think that's a really good aspect for a hazard stack team like this. Having the Crobat, the Mesprit, the Infernape, all with U-turn, and all those really want to run U-turn most of the time as well. That just makes the team work out pretty well. So I was really happy with this draft, let me tell you. But let's go ahead and jump right on into the first matchup here for pool play. So the first game I'm going to show you was against Big Daddy Dave, and his team consisted of Z Manaphy, Ferrothorn, Galvantula, Aerodactyl, Komala, Mega Charizard, X Florges, and Crocodile. And I don't think I ever mentioned my other Z-move user was actually the Mesprit. So the way it worked in this tournament, I'm not going to go into too much detail on like the Z captains and stuff, but basically how it worked is you could have like one. Let me think. You had like a certain point allotment for the number for the Z captains you could have, kind of like the GBA. But there were a few like niches involved in that, and like involving if you wanted them to be able to use support Z moves and etc. I had Zygarde and Mesprit. I really didn't care about support Z moves, so I was able to get a tier 1 and a tier 4 for those Z move users. Big Daddy Dave here has a special Z move user, Manaphy, so he can use Z Rain Dance, and then he was forced to go with a tier 5 Z move user in that Komala that is not going to come in any of his games, I'm sure. So yeah, Komala's trash, guys. But yeah, so let's talk about the team very briefly. I am bringing an Araquanid that is sub Liquidation, Sticky Web, and Infestation. The idea behind this set is to set webs, to hit things really hard with my Liquidation, and to potentially trap his Florges or his Ferrothorn. Substitute allows me to trap Ferrothorn more easily, and Liquidation plus Infestation is good enough to deal with the Florges. If I'm able to get rid of Florges, it really frees up a lot of my team in the late game, as that Fairy typing is a really key resistance against my draft. Really, Florges' natural stats are really key against my draft, as if I can get rid of Florges, Diancie's freed up, Zygarde's freed up, Infernape's freed up, etc. It's just really good to get rid of it, so Araquanid is pretty good at doing that job. Then I have Mega Diancie, which is a relatively standard set, just sub-Calm Mind with Moonblast and HP Fire. I can always bluff the Diamond Storm option to help me deal with the Mega Charizard X, or at least force it out if it doesn't have a boost, so that's always nice. But sub-Calm Mind allows me to better deal with non-Calm Mind variants of Florges. It allows me to do a lot of damage, obviously, after one Calm Mind. If I'm able to get up a sub, that would mean that he can't as easily offensively check me with stuff like his Aerodactyl or potentially a Scarf Crocodile. So that's the idea behind Diancie. Then I have my Zygarde 50, which is a double dance set with Coil and Dragon Dance, and then has 1,000 arrows because he doesn't have a resist on his team. And then Z Superpower to give it a little bit more extra damage on whatever the fat threat is that I'm trying to deal with. I really thought about the Grounding Z on this to help me break through Florges a little bit better, but I already have a Trapper in place for Florges, as well as a pretty hard counter to it coming up here at the end, so I thought that wasn't really necessary, and I can easily see kind of like a fatter Crocodile being his response to Zygarde, so having the Z Superpower is nice to be able to break through that. Obviously also is nice for the Ferrothorn. Then I have my own Ferrothorn, so there's actually 3 Ferrothorns in my pool. I thought that was really funny, but here's my own Ferrothorn, just my Hazard Setter with Stealth Rock and Spikes. I have Power Whip for good general damage against his team, and Thunder Wave for the obvious Charizard switch-ins. That's probably going to be his switch-in of choice almost every single day of the week, unless he wants to go into Ferrothorn, and if he does that, that's just a free hazard for me, so I don't really care too much if that's his call. So that is the Ferrothorn. Then I have a Choice Scarf and Infernape, which really benefits a lot from trapping the Florges, as his only fighting resist is the Florges outside of the Galvantula, but that's not going to appreciate hazards plus close combat at all. So really, Florges is the only resist, and if I'm able to get rid of that Florges, then I can sweep the close combat very easily. This is also a good way to check a +1 Mega Charizard X. And yeah, so that's the Infernape, and then finally I have my Florges counter just in case I'm not able to trap it, and I can really abuse his team when I have those free switches to Florges as well with this Sky Plate offensive Crobat that also happens to have Roost. He does not like switching into flying attacks at all. His only resist is Aerodactyl, his Aerodactyl, and even Aerodactyl doesn't appreciate maxed attack Sky Plate boosted Brave Birds from a Crobat. So that is the team for this game. Let's jump on over to the match itself. My opponent decided to bring the Ferrothorn, Manaphy, Mega Charizard, X Aerodactyl, Crocodile, and the Florges. As you've already seen my team, so what I'm actually going to do for my lead is I'm going to lead off with my Mega Diancie, just in case he wants to lead with his Charizard. I want to make sure Charizard isn't able to do anything on turn 1. That's easily the biggest threat to my my team in a turn 1 scenario, in my opinion, so I wanted to make sure it was not able to be the lead against me. So with that said, if I can find my mouse, we'll go ahead and jump on into this game as he leads off with the Ferrothorn, which is unfortunately the worst case scenario for me. I'm going to switch hard into my own Ferrothorn as he goes for a Thunder Wave, so that's good knowledge to have. Later on in the game, as he gets up his Stealth Rocks, I'm going to get up my own as well, and now I'm going to go straight for, I believe, a Thunder Wave as it goes into Manaphy. Get fully paralyzed, not the worst thing in the world, as now he's going to go hard into his Charizard as I just go for a Power Whip, not going to mess around with a big threat in Manaphy. And now I'm going to be able to go straight into my Diancie, which is fine. I am in my non-mega form, so I know I can take any hit that I need to and be able to bluff the Diamond Storm and force him out into his Florges, as I'm going to go for the substitute, just in case he wanted to go into something else, maybe like his own Ferrothorn, as I'd be able to get off a pretty free Hidden Power Fire in that situation and take him out of the following turn, or at least just severely weaken him and then force him into Florges, as I'm going to go for the Calm Mind, and now followed up by a Moonblast, getting a little bit of chip damage on the Ferrothorn as he wanted to preserve his Florges health, which is fair enough, as now I'm going to go straight into my Ferrothorn, again because I do have the spikes, I can just go straight into this on his Ferrothorn every single time, and I go for a Thunder Wave once again on this turn to try to catch the Zard, and we missed that one, so not having too much luck on my Thunder Wave turns so far, but the battle is still young, as now I'm going to go into my Araquanid on the expected Flare Blitz, knowing I can take it relatively well. He could have easily gone for a Dragon Claw, and I think had a chance to take me out there if he was max attack invested, but because he decided to switch out, I'm going to assume he's not max attack invested, but he just gives me Florges here, not expecting the infestation apparently, as I am able to trap the Florges with my Araquanid, which is going to make this late game so much easier, as I can just go straight for the Liquidation, does an absolute ton to Florges. Araquanid is so strong with that Water Bubble ability, and I'm going to be able to take out the Florges with 2 Liquidations here, eliminating the only resistance that he brought to my Infernape's close combat. So that's what I'm trying to go for now in the late game, as he goes into his Aerodactyl to take out my Araquanid. That's fair enough, it's done its job, as I can go straight into my Ferrothorn to check the Aerodactyl. I can go for that Thunder Wave once again and get a little justice here on the Mega Charizard X getting fully paralyzed as I go into my Mega Diancie. Now here I'm going to go for the Moonblast as he goes Ferrothorn. Could have easily gone for a Hidden Power Fire there, but opted against it on that turn because I always have this chance to go back into my own Ferrothorn on his Ferrothorn to get my hazards back on the field, as this is a hazard stack draft. I need hazards on the field for it to work to the most of its potential, and I get fully paralyzed once again with Ferrothorn as I'm going for a Thunder Wave on the Aerodactyl. If I landed that Thunder Wave, it would have almost instantly been good game because of my Diancie being able to sweep his team, in addition to my Infernape hopefully in the late game. As here, knowing that he has to be locked into Fire Fang with the choice band based upon that damage, I'm going to go into my Zygarde and just go straight for the Dragon Dance, followed by the 1,000 Arrows. Now here I strongly contemplated going for a second Dragon Dance, expecting him to sack off his Ferrothorn to the Z move, but I just decided to go ahead and fire it off to knock out whatever he wants to go into, because getting that kill is always nice, and knowing as well that if I can just get that chip damage off on Manaphy when he comes back in with 1,000 Arrows, that guarantees he's in range of my Infernape's close combat, as well as my Crobat's Brave Bird if he wants to try to preserve the Manaphy. So here I'm able to knock out the Manaphy with my Diancie, and he goes into his Aerodactyl, takes me out with an Earthquake, and going to go right into my Infernape and click close combat to reveal my Choice Scarf, knock out the Aerodactyl. His only hope now is if he is a Chople Berry, Crocodile, or maybe Intimidate with some bulk investment, that would give him a slight chance to win, but most likely, I believe in almost every single scenario, the close combat from the Infernape into spamming Skyplate Brave Bird from my Crobat would have been able to clean up this game as a 2-0 or a 1-0 in my favor. In this case, it was to a 2-0 victory over Big Daddy Dave. So that was a pretty interesting game. Definitely a close, definitely a close one. He had a lot of threats against my team, obviously, but fortunately, we were able to pull that one out. So now we can move on over to the next game. Let me pull up the old team for my second game, which is against a guy who goes by Goat. So his team consists of Latios, Sylveon, Cloyster, Alolan Persian, Ampharos, Mega Lopunny, Scizor, and Nidoking, with his Z Crystal users being Cloyster, a Super Z Alolan Persian, and then Z Ampharos, I believe. So he had 3 Z Crystal users based upon how the prices worked out. So he has some pretty interesting low tier threats based upon how he spent his points. And he has just a lot of threats across his whole team. Sylveon serves kind of as a similar nuisance to my team as the floor just did, I think. Just because it is able to relatively well deal with the Mega Diancie. Plus, he has the Scizor to help him deal with Mega Diancie. So I really wasn't feeling Mega Diancie in this game, not gonna lie. He's able to check it really well offensively and switch into it pretty well defensively, most likely depending on what he brings. So opted actually not to bring it, but what I am bringing here is a Ground DMZ Zygarde, as once again we see a team that does not have a resist 2000 arrows, which I love seeing when I have a Zygarde. So I am bringing a pretty offensive Ground DMZ Zygarde with 1000 arrows, extreme speed, outrage, and Dragon Dance. Just really good against this team. When I get off a Dragon Dance, he has very little to be able to deal with it. He can maybe try to check me with priority. I could easily see that. That's why I like having the extreme speed potentially to maybe help against a double priority Mega Lopunny if that's what he decides to do. Might even help against like a quick attack Sylveon. I've seen that before. You never really know, but in general it's just good to have that priority against a team that's naturally quite a bit faster than mine, if I'm not able to get the Sticky Web on the field here. So just a good mon against this team. Then I have the Araquanid, which actually doesn't have Sticky Web. So no Sticky Web in this matchup. That further explains the extreme speed there on the Zygarde. So I have Liquidation, Sleep Talk, Toxic, and Rest. So this is just a Rest Talk set designed to annoy him. He has several mons that don't really appreciate this. Mega Lopunny and Scizor most specifically are the mons I'm trying to wear down with this set. And Araquanid really has pretty good natural defenses, even though I'm not even running an impish nature on this week. In this game I'm just running a careful nature with that max investment in the defense. But even so, this does a good job of dealing with both of those mons, and Toxic is really good against this team too if he wants to try to switch in his Sylveon or switch in his like Latios, for example, or even the Alolan Persian. Having that residual damage going on those mons could certainly be nice. So yeah, just a good defensive nuisance against this team. I don't expect this to put in like too much work necessarily in this matchup, but even so, it's definitely, it has a key role in this game for sure. So then I have the Ferrothorn, which is my spike setter in this game. So again, I'm going to be going for the Hazard Stack option again with the Rocky Helmet, because screw Mega Lopunny. It's really good against my team. Its speed tier is disgusting, especially when I don't have the Sticky Web. So I do have Hazard Stack and double Rocky Helmet. I have Leech Seed because nothing on his team resists Leech Seed, so whenever I want to get a little health back with Ferrothorn, it's pretty much a guaranteed hit, you know, 85% of the time or whatever it is. So that's pretty good. Gyro Ball is good against most of his mons as well. His only resists being Ampharos and Scizor, neither of which wants to take a Leech Seed, and Ampharos doesn't really switch into this anyways. And then Hidden Power Fire is nice for the Scizor, just in case he thinks I am setup fodder. I'll make sure he quickly learns that I am not setup fodder at all. So then I have the Infernape, which is a pretty cool set that has a lot of potential in this game. It is 4 attacks, Charcoal, this week with a modest nature. He does have the Cloyster and he has the Alolan Persian. Vacuum Wave was essential. If you look at his speed tiers, there was no real reason for me to try to run a Timid or a speed boosting Infernape this week. So I do have the modest nature with Vacuum Wave that's very, very strong against those two Pokemon. U-Turn is obviously good for the Latios switch-in. Gunk Shot is good for the Sylveon, and Flamethrower with Charcoal is so hard for him to switch into, as his only resist is the Latios, which I can always U-turn on, so just a very good mod against him. Then I have the Choice Scarf Crobat to make sure I can outspeed the Mega Lopunny, plus he doesn't have any, he only has one flying resist, and it is an Ampharos, which I'm not expecting at all in this game, so this could easily be very good. Pursuit is nice for the Latios, and then I have the Mesprit, which is just a bulky Stealth Rocker set that can help me gain momentum on a variety of mons on his team, particularly in the early game. If he brings the Alolan Persian and wants to treat that as a lead or a pivot into Mesprit, I can always U-turn after a parting shot and get extra momentum in that way. So that is the team for Game 2. Let's take a look at this matchup against Goat, as he decided to bring the Cloyster. So we are seeing a Cloyster team here. He has the Scizor, the Ampharos, which was really unexpected for sure, the Latios, the Nidoking, and the Alolan Persian. So there's no Mega Lopunny, which I thought was very, very interesting, and no Sylveon. Those were two mons I was almost convinced were going to come in this matchup, but he opted to bring neither of them, so that's very interesting here. The Ampharos certainly caught me off guard. I might have underprepared for it just a little bit here with this team, but I do think I have the tools to be able to beat it, even if it's not like the optimal tools to be able to beat it necessarily. So we're going to go ahead and jump on into this game. I don't really know what to expect out of him as his lead, but I'm going to lead off with my Mesprit because I really want those rocks up immediately, and this would allow me to scout out what his Ampharos set is, and that is definitely Choice Specs Ampharos. So I have to keep that in mind as we move forward in the game, as he decides to go straight into his Latios, which is the biggest threat to my team. I can't switch into it. I could go hard into my Ferrothorn, but I didn't want to risk its health. So goodbye, Mesprit. So I have my rocks on the field, at least at this point. And I can go straight into my Crobat, go straight for a U-turn into my Infernape on the incoming Scizor. Now here he should switch out into his Latios, but he decides to risk his Scizor's life, which I kind of disagree with, but you know, I guess in a sense it's a 50-50, so more power to him. As I do U-turn, as he catches me and goes for his own U-turn and eats a Rocky Helmet for my Ferrothorn, as now he goes into his Ampharos as I go into my Zygarde, knowing that the worst case scenario is HP Ice, and I really doubt he'll go for it on that turn. He does just go for the Focus Blast. Now here I can go straight for the Tectonic Rage and knock out the Scizor on the switch-in, which is fantastic. The Scizor obviously wasn't doing as much against my team since I opted not to bring the Mega Diancie, as I'm going to sack off my Zygarde to the Alolan Persian's Icy Wind, and now he's going to go for the Parting Shot with his Persian, but knowing that even if he goes into really anything else on his team, regardless, Flamethrower was going to be my best play. Now here's going to go into the Nidoking. Based upon how he played that, I'm kind of expecting him to be a Choice Scarf Nidoking, so I just go into my Araquanid, as he actually just ends up not being that, so he just goes for his Stealth Rocks, and that's fine. I managed to live the Volt Switch with my Araquanid, going to go straight for the Liquidation and get a good chunk of damage off on the Latios as he reveals the Memento, which actually is really good for me. I was kind of concerned that that might be more of a like a roost bulkier Latios, but because he's Memento and he's putting all of his cards into a Cloyster Sweep, that works into my favor significantly here in this matchup, as I am going to sack off my Araquanid after getting that key chip damage off on him, just in case he is a Chople Berry Cloyster. I can go straight into my Infernape now that he has that little bit of extra chip, go for the backing with guaranteed be able to knock him out, but he decides to sack off first his Alolan Persian, as now because the Cloyster's no longer boosted, I can just go straight for the Flamethrower with my Infernape and try to clean this game up with my Crobat, as I am going to go for that, knock out the Ampharos and not get the Static Paralysis. That would have been really sad, as I think he would have had a chance to win in that case. I'm not sure how much health my Ferrothorn had left. I was still at 77%, so I think I would have still been able to win with Ferrothorn, but he would have at least had a chance, I guess, in that case, as he could have just gone for a Shell Smash on my Paralysis turn if I got fully paralyzed, and then if he had like HP Fire, he could have knocked out both my Crobat and my Ferrothorn, and I could have lost that game, but fortunately, once again, we were able to pull that out in 2-0 fashion, and that was a really good game, honestly. Like, he brought a team I didn't expect. I really thought he would bring the Mega Lopunny. Opted to bring the Ampharos instead, which is that's wild. But you know, more power to him. He played really well with it, and yeah, fortunately able to win that game, advancing to 2-0 plus 4 in our pool. Now we have one more game to show you here. Now I did mention that this was a game, or a pool of 5 people. One of those 5 games didn't actually end up happening due to schedules and whatnot, so I was only able to play 3 games in my pool. But let's just see how this goes. So my next game is against Spoink, and his team is gross. His team, really gross, is Clefable, Z Mimikyu, Snorlax, Special Z Rotom, which I don't really know why he would go Special Z on Rotom. Maybe he has something up his sleeve. I'm trying to think what he might have actually tried to do with like a support Z move on Rotom, like Z Pain Split? I don't know what that does. I don't know. Anyway, he is Quagsire, he is Mega Gallade, he is Skarmory, and Vaporeon, so he is kind of like a stall team. He's like Mega Gallade stall, but he also has a Mimikyu, and it's really weird. I don't know. His draft was weird, but it was kind of annoying to prep for as well, because he has so much fat, and like the defensive combination of Clef, Snorlax, Skarmory, Vaporeon, Quag, like, ew, you know? But we built a pretty interesting team for this. So you know I have an Ursaring on my team, and Ursaring is made for these types of matchups. Ursaring, Flame Orb with Facade, Thunder Punch, Taunt, and Swords Dance. Ouch! I have a little bit of speed investment to be able to help deal with some of his fatter mons if he didn't invest too much in their speed. If I recall correctly, I believe the speed is for unboosted Skarmory, or for uninvested Skarmory, which is kind of unlikely that he'll go without speed on it, but I tried to creep it if possible. I think I might have gone for like 20 speed Skarmory or something, but yeah, so we'll see how that comes into play. This should be able to outspeed the rest of his Batmons though, and if I'm able to do that, then this is just an enormous threat. Excuse me, an enormous threat against this team. Maybe I should have gone for like Fire Punch instead of Thunder Punch in hindsight, but yeah, we'll see how that comes into play here. But Taunt Sword Stance is just really good against him, and fun to finally get to use Ursaring here, as this was the only mon I hadn't been able to use so far in pool play. So next up is my Zygarde. Choice Scarfed this week because I wanted an extra way to outspeed the Mega Gallade, which otherwise pushes my team in. Mega Gallade is such a big threat against my team for sure, so having that extra way to deal with it offensively doesn't really one-shot Mega Gallade, but at least can do some damage to it, maybe surprise damage to it to put it in range of some of my other mons or some of my other priority potentially. So yeah, it's certainly good on that. Earthquake is actually pretty spammable against this team too if I'm able to get rid of the Skarmory, as I guess the Rotom as well. Really, I just had that extra slot available, to be honest. I'll be clicking 1,000 arrows more than anything. Maybe Outrage if I'm trying to do damage to the Mega Gallade, but Earthquake could be nice if his Levitators and Flyers are gone, as it is a little bit stronger, obviously, than 1,000 arrows. Then I have the Mesprit, which is a Psychium Z variant with just Calm Mind, Psychic, and Thunderbolt. And then Toxic. Toxic is nice to help me deal with stuff like the Snorlax potentially. It's also nice to help deal with Unaware Clefable. Nice dealing with the Quagsire, maybe even the Mega Gallade, depending on the situation. So there's a lot of ways where Toxic could be nice. And combination of Psychic and Thunderbolt is able to deal very well with the vast majority of his team. Actually, with this entire team, yes, with his entire team, especially in combination with Toxic, does not appreciate this this form of Mesprit. The Psychium Z allows me to better deal with the Mega Gallade as well. So that is the Mesprit. Then I have a Ferrothorn, which is once again running spikes in this matchup. So you'll see Hazard Stack on pretty much every single one of my teams here throughout this tournament. And yeah, so this is more of a physically defensive variant. Knockoff is nice to get rid of the leftovers or Rocky Helmets and whatnots potentially standing in the way of Ursaring, or just leftovers being generally annoying on a really generally annoying draft of his that is really fat as well. So yeah, Knockoff's good for that. Leech Seed is nice. It's his only switch into Leech Seed is Magic Guard Clef or Rotom, neither of which... I guess Rotom doesn't mind switching into the Ferrothorn, but I'll be able to hopefully knock that off as well on switching, which could be nice if he's trying to bring it into Defog or something. And if it goes into Clef on Ferrothorn, then that's a pretty interesting play. I could see leaving Clef in against the Ferrothorn. I don't really see switching Clef into Ferrothorn. Maybe that's just me, but you never know. Even so, I do have the Spikes as well to take advantage of as many free turns as he will give me. Then I have the Crobat, which is a very annoying variant for him as well. Basically, a Stall Breaker. Couple stall breakers on this team. Obviously, I have the Ursaring. The Crobat is another one. Having a lot of bulk investment, enough speed for the Mega Gallade, of course, and then the attack investment to allow me to do as much damage as possible to the Mega Gallade with my Brave Birds whenever I have the opportunity. And just in general, he doesn't appreciate Brave Bird at all. His only real switch into this is the Skarmory, and this beats Skarmory 1v1. I believe almost every time it beats most Skarmory variants 1v1. So yeah, Crobat definitely solid against this team. And then I have the Infernape, which is a Life Orb variant. It is a stealth rocker. It's able to force a lot of switches, so I felt like it was my best rocker. And his hazard removers, being the Rotom and the Skarmory, aren't able to remove freely against this mon unless it is a choice Scarf Rotom, because they both have to fear the Fire Blast. Gunk Shot, obviously, to blow back the Clefable, and Close Combat is nice and spammable against his team. So that is the team for Game 3 of Pool Play. Let me grab some water real quick, as this has been 3 battles commentated over. It's a lot at one time. Alright, let's jump into this. So, my opponent decided to bring all of the fat, which is lovely. He brought the Clefable, Snorlax, Quagsire, Mega Gallade, Skarmory, and the Rotom Cut. Now, in terms of the lead matchup, there's a lot of things I can do on this. I really wanted to potentially lead with my Stealth Rocker, but as you can see, he leads off with Rotom, as I lead off with my Spikes user instead. Now, knowing he might have HP Fire, I'm just going to go straight for the knockoff in case he wants to stay in, also in case he wants to go into the Skarmory, and I am able to get rid of the leftover. Now, expecting him to go for either a Volt Switch or maybe even a Willow, expecting my Zygarde to come in. Going to go into my Mesprit, which should allow me to get off a Toxic on pretty much anything. There's no safe switch-ins to this, and just due to the general composition of his team, I'm kind of expecting Clefable to not be Magic Guard either, but you never really know necessarily. As I'm going to go into my Ferrothorn and then back into my Infernape, expecting him to go for the Will-O-Wisp, again expecting my Zygarde to come in, and this will give me the opportunity to get up my Stealth Rocks as he goes hard into his Snorlax, which screams Chople Berry. I'm not about to fall for that. I'm going to go back into my Ferrothorn, and then I'm going to double into my Crobat, expecting him to go back into his Rotom to potentially try to defog. And I'm just going to taunt to make sure that he can't defog, because I really recognize the importance of hazards in this game. I don't really want to let him get the defog off, especially this early on. So here I'm going to go into my Ferrothorn. And what you might have noticed from the team builder is I actually had some speed investment on this Ferrothorn, and I guarantee this Quagsire at HP Fire, because otherwise there's no reason for him to leave it in, and I'm actually able to catch him with that speed investment and knock out the Quagsire with the Power Whip, so that's pretty cool. As now he's going to go into his Clefable, he's going to go for Stealth Rock as I go hard into my Ursaring, and here's where we find out if he has any investment on his speed investment on his Skarmory. I'm going to go for the Thunder Punch. Unfortunately, he is faster, so I definitely should have run Fire Punch for this matchup. That's on me. Definitely a small prep error there that I should have considered. But I'm just going to go for the taunt, now recognizing that he's faster. I just need to be able to wear this thing down to help my Zygarde try to sweep in the late game with 1,000 Arrows, as it gets a flinch with the Iron Head, which is kind of unfortunate. Now I can go straight for the Thunder Punch. And get this thing into a range where after another round of Stealth Rock damage, it's really not going to want to switch into my Zygarde at all. So here I can force him out with my Infernape, or he just decides to sack it off. That's fine. He doesn't have any switch into this Infernape, especially with the Quagsire gone, as I wasn't packing the Grass Knot on the Infernape, so having the Quagsire gone is definitely really nice for that. As here my Mesprit is still at a range of health where I don't think he could take me out with Mega Gallade. I think his only coverage option on Mega Gallade to hit my Mesprit is probably the Ice Punch. He might have like X-Scissor or Shadow Sneak, but I doubt it, as I think he's probably going to have like Swords Dance or Bulk Up in that last slot, as he's definitely going to have Ice Punch, definitely going to have like Fighting coverage, and I believe the other one I expected was Psychic coverage, I'm pretty sure. So anyway, I'm able to go into my Ferrothorn here and get some spikes up on this Snorlax, as he is going to recycle up his berry, but he is toxic, so the Snorlax is never going to be that big of a threat. He was only going to be a threat if he was a rest set after I got that toxic off on it. As here he's going to go into his Rotom. I'm expecting him to go for potentially a Hidden Power Fire or a defog. Either way, I felt like Mesprit was my best play, as if he does just go for the attack, I'm going to be able to go immediately into my Zygarde and claim my kills. I am the Choice Scarf variant. He has no switch in. If he wants to go into the Clefable, it's probably unaware, and it's probably going to be taking the hazard damage plus 2,000 arrows hits, and that's just not something it wants to do. So I'm going to go into my Ferrothorn here on the Gallade just to let him take the Iron Barb's damage, potentially putting him in range of my Zygarde Scarf Outrage. If he doesn't have any bulk investment, turns out he probably has a little bulk investment because he was able to live that pretty handily and knock out my Zygarde, but now we're at a point in the game where my Crobat should actually be able to deal with the remainder of his team if I play this properly. Despite having such little health, I think I should be able to deal with the Snorlax as well, because I do have that bulk investment, and if this Snorlax isn't packing Earthquake, and I really don't think he should be packing Earthquake in this game, or, you know, maybe he even has it. Regardless, he's not going to want to go for it. I think he actually revealed Earthquake earlier on, now that I'm thinking about it. But even so, I don't think he's going to go for it in this scenario, because if he gets it wrong, he just loses immediately. He has to go for return, I think, to be able to have any chance of winning. And here he decides to go for the Curse as I go for a Roost, and that was actually his a choke in a sense, because I believe I was guaranteed to be able to take a +1 return from the range I was at due to my investments, and I am able to knock out these Snorlax here with a Brave Bird. And now it's Clefable versus the world. I have a Gunk Shot Infernape in the back if all goes wrong with the Crobat. Maybe he's like a Thunder Wave Clefable, but regardless, my best play is always to go for a Roost first, even if he has the Thunder Wave, because I'll have to get fully paralyzed many times in a row to lose to this Clefable 1v1, as I am carrying the Toxic on this Crobat, I believe. And I'm able to fire off the Toxic. He's already revealed to be unaware by taking damage from the Stealth Rock and Spike. Now with the Toxic on him, the timer is on. There's no way I can lose this game, and we are going to be able to pick up our third victory in the pools round. again in a 2-0 fashion. So once again, a really good game to spoink. I felt like this was a very tough matchup for my team because I don't have too much breaking power on my team necessarily. Yeah, I have Mega Diancie. It hits pretty hard, but he had a pretty good ways to deal with Mega Diancie on his team, I felt. He had, yeah, in all three of those games, I played like the 3 stereotypical fat fairy Diancie checks. I played Florges, I played Sylveon, I played Clefable, and that was kind of annoying for Mega Diancie for sure. But yeah, so able to pull off the win here. And in terms of the 4th game in the pools, I actually was given the forfeit win, I believe, over my opponent in that case. So we end up having the 4-0 record coming out of pool play, which gives us a decent seeding in the bracket round. I'm not going to go through the bracket round in this video. 1, because my voice is really tired, and 2, because I want to split this up a little bit. But yeah, hope you guys are looking forward to that. Our round 1 opponent in the bracket round is Johnson, I believe is what he goes by, like the Johnson 03 or some number like that. Someone else I had never played before, but you know, he did well in his pool as well, so we'll see how that goes. But thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all in part 2. Peace.